What are the experts saying when it comes to the national championship game on Monday? What does Diesel say? What do I say?
Wait, why did you separate me from the experts? Am I not?
No,
Are we not experts?
We're not, because if we claim to be, then we're responsible for the outcome.
He says he's an expert.
That's why we separate. And the Tolos. What do you say
We're
about the college football national? Surely not experts.
We're gifted amateurs.
That's right.
Gifted is in quotes.
Welcome into Wire to Wire. He is Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. It is a Friday edition of Wire to Wire, a loaded show coming your way today, and that's what we're starting off with. A little fun, excuse me, for you Tolos out there today. We need your interaction right off the bat today, as we need a winner. No, not a winner Monday, not a winner for the national championship game, Diesel, but we need a winner. And the Tolos, if the Tolos out there, which stands for turn on, leave on, if our audience wants to prove how smart they are, let's put it. Let's put your money where your mouth is here, and let's predict the exact outcome of the national championship on Monday night. Forgive me, I have a little bit of a cough. Diesel does as well, so we're going to try our best not to cough in your ears, Tolos. But if you do not mind, let's start right off with some interaction. Ohio State, Notre Dame on Monday. Programming reminder, we are not on the show Monday. So this is our Monday. This is our Monday of getting you ready for the national championship game. So here's what we're going to do, Tolos. We need you to give us your expert prediction on the outcome of the game, including the score Monday night. The winner gets nothing except a shout out. Well, we might give you some airtime. On the show for That's right. Minutes. We'll give you some airtime, and you can tell us how you're so smart. Diesel and I will give you our outcome predictions as well. So let's get it started right here. The way to do it, the way to text the show as well as call the show is 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Who wins and the score. It's kind of like the upset picks challenge, but again, you're just picking the score. The winner closest to it, like I said, Diesel, we'll give him a shout out, maybe give him some airtime on Tuesday. So who's going to start us off, Tolos, on the text line?
Well, Ricky Mullinax is already on the stream.
Ricky's ahead of the game.
Yeah, man. Love that. He's in the mix. He's going Ohio State 31, Notre Dame 24.
Ricky, do me a favor. Text that if you don't mind, Ricky. That way we can actually have I'm
going to create a Google Doc so we have everybody's score predictions.
So it's just like the upset picks challenge. Try to do it in this segment, Tolos. We will revisit it as the show goes on as well. But 844-FAN-PHONE, that's phone with an F, 844-326-3663. Ricky Mullinax, Diesel, calling for a close game. 31-24, Ohio State winning. Ricky, I like your Ohio State pick. I don't think it'll be that close, though. I don't think it'll be that close. So Tolos,
that's a touchdown. I mean,
that's a touchdown.
Yeah,
I think it'll be more than that.
Wow.
And that would be, if Ricky's score was correct, that would mean that excuse me, that Notre Dame covered. Are you ready? Are you prepared yet, Diesel, to give an exact score prediction? I went back and forth on I said yesterday 11 points. I'm going to increase my points today, though.
I'm gonna go, Cole, Ohio State 30, Notre Dame 21.
30-21
to 21.
So you would have Ohio State covering the spread, as do I. So Diesel is going Ohio State over Notre Dame 30-21. Ricky, Ohio State over Notre Dame 31-24. Again, Tolos, if you just tuned into the show a few minutes late, it's okay. Turn it on, leave it on. We'll be here all day until 7 o'clock. Let us know your score predictions. The winner closest will get a shout-out on the show on Tuesday. We may even give you some airtime. Jaybird from Duncan, he's going 24-17 Ohio State. So
close game.
Again, a very close prediction there. Texters, please put your name on the text. That way we can at least shout you out if you get it right. Before I give you mine, I want to give you a little bit of audio, Diesel, on Brady Quinn. We know Brady Quinn. We know Joe Theismann, on what both of them had to say when it comes to Monday night's championship.
It means everything, honestly. I mean, it's been since '88. You know, I think someone asked me this week, who would it be bigger for to win a national championship? Given Ohio State's season, the loss to Michigan, the pressure on Ryan Day, I'm like, look, it means more to Notre Dame. I mean, the truth is it's not just about the time since 1988. It's about Marcus filling the void of a coach who left and went to LSU and said, I'm going to a place where I feel like I have the resources to win championships. And that was one of the things that motivated me to start the collective at Notre Dame. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes who took issue with that, and they stepped up. They supported the program in a huge way for our collective, which is now a part of the piece of how you get to this point. You look at that Georgia game and the kicker and the quarterback and the wide receiver and the edge player and the returner, all people who probably wouldn't be here without the transfer portal and NIL and the opportunity to have a collective. So I think there's a lot of people who should take great pride in helping to support Marcus and helping to support the program in an era where it's allowed and it's legal. And Brian Kelly, for whatever reason, didn't feel like he had that at Notre Dame, and he was dead wrong. And I know he's kind of eating those words down and trying to come back and walk some of those comments back, but he said them. And the truth of the matter is he's been down now at LSU trying to figure it out. And meanwhile, Notre Dame has been getting better and better and better under Marcus Freeman.
That's great, man.
Who do you think Jaden Rashada will start a collective to support?
Ooh.
Because he's been at Arizona State, Georgia, and Florida.
Probably none of the three. None of the above.
Yeah, these guys don't care about their schools enough anymore to donate. Some of them do, and we've heard stories about quarterbacks who are making a tremendous amount of money in NIL who give back to their teammates. Not all of them do. That's rare when you see guys who are willing to do that. But Brady Quinn right there says he put his money where his mouth was. I don't know how much money Brady Quinn has in the bank. I'm sure a lot, right? He had a short stint in the NFL, and he's had now almost a decade-long career working for Fox, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not getting paid chump change to do that.
Sure.
I appreciate Brady Quinn for supporting his alma mater the way that he does. I just wonder, Cole, not to take us off topic, how long, how many of these quarterbacks who transfer 2 and 3 times, where would they send their money back to?
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? Excuse me. What's interesting about that audio from Brady Quinn? That is some of the more intriguing audio I've heard, because basically Brian Kelly left a place where he thought he couldn't win, where he thought he didn't have the resources, and he publicly said, hey, you can't win at Notre Dame. I'm going to go to LSU where I can win. And NIL guys, or Brady Quinn and others who are now involved with NIL collectives, took major issue with that. And guess what? Their team's in the national championship, and Brian Kelly is, has yet to make a playoff at LSU. So
yeah, I'm just curious. I'm
really
looking up real quick what Brian Kelly's record is at LSU in 3 seasons. 29-11. It's nothing to sneeze at, right? He's a good coach, but he lost 4 in his first year, 3 in his second year, 4 this year.
Ooh. He's a 3 or 4 loss coach at LSU is what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Not much. Above average.
Yeah, he was going back to 2021 and then looking backwards from there. 1 loss, 2 loss, 2, 1, 3, 8. God, 2016 was a rough year for Irish fans. Lost 5 games in 2014. Took him a little while to kind of get things going. But then, the second half of his stint there at Notre Dame, he was very, very good.
All right, a lot of texts coming in on the text line. We need to continue the text, though, continue to get more and more score predictions in. What we're doing is, if you just tuned in, Diesel and I are asking for your score predictions for Monday night's game. Since we will not be on air Monday, we will shout out whoever gets closest. We'll give them airtime. We'll praise them. We'll ask them how they're such an expert. Diesel, you said 31. Did you say 30-21?
I said 30-21.
My score prediction for Monday night is 28-10. I like Ohio State 28-10.
So I got a 19-point win. You've got an 18-point win.
That's right. No, you have is that right? Yeah, we're pretty close. We're pretty close.
That?
So I like Ohio State 28-10 over Notre Dame on Monday night. I believe that Notre Dame is going to find themselves struggling to convert third downs, struggling to figure out ways to continue drives, and that Ohio State defense, I believe they'll suffocate them to where they won't be able to sustain drives. What are the Tolos saying? Jay Bird again from Duncan. He already got his in. He says Ohio State 24-17 over Notre Dame. Texter from the 770 says 28-17 Ohio State. Put your name in there, Texter. That way we can give you credit. Eric P. Diesel, 28-13 Ohio State. Tolo, Keith, and Fountain Inn. Here's the first one. The very first Notre Dame prediction that you and I have really heard of this week. 34-30 Notre Dame, says Tolo, Keith, and Fountain Inn.
Bold, Keith.
That is bold. That's a high-scoring game, too. With those defenses, there's no way. There's no way they'll put up 34 on Ohio State.
What is the over-under on this game? Give me just a second. I'll get to it here. It takes a second to access this. Over-under is 45.5, so that would be slamming the over at 64 points.
45.5, so Vegas pretty much has these two scoring somewhere around 24 points. That's interesting. You said 45. I hadn't thought about that.
They have it somewhere around, 24, 22, 24, 20, something like that.
Yeah, and which I think the 20s will be reached. I don't know if Notre Dame gets up in the high 20s. That's my concern.
I could see this as a game where Ohio State just kind of gets out ahead of them, of Notre Dame, and Notre Dame can't do a whole lot to keep up. Ohio State just keeps scoring, whether it's field goals or they put up a late touchdown to kind of make this thing look more lopsided than it actually was. So if you just went back and looked at the box score on Tuesday morning, you might say, "Oh, wow, God, Ohio State beat the tar out of them." Well, it was really more like a 2-score game until late, and then Ohio State put up a couple of late field goals or stunted a couple of drives, and it was not nearly as rough as the box score indicates.
Here's what Joe Theismann had to say when it comes to previewing Monday's game.
It would be one of the proudest moments I would have ever experienced in my life. I have such love and affection for the university, for all aspects of the university, and what we represent. The road, the journey. We know how tough the journey is to get to this point. To be able to finish it off, it's like a Super Bowl. To be able to finish it off, there's such satisfaction from all the hard work that you put in, and whoever comes out of this game, they both put in a ton of hard work. And I think that certainly Ohio State has talented wide receivers. They're a talented football team, no question. And Notre Dame, I believe, brings a talented football team in. I mean, you look at the losses that Ohio State had. 1 point against Oregon and 3 against Michigan. Notre Dame, 3-point wins. I mean, these two teams are very evenly matched. I remember last time Ohio State and Notre Dame played a couple of years ago, we had Tyler Buckner, who basically is back at the university as a wide receiver, was a freshman quarterback, went into Ohio State to play. It was still a close game. So I expected a close game. I do expect the University of Notre Dame to win. I think we can control the ball, and I think that's going to be very key. And you can't give up the big explosive plays to those very, very talented wide receivers at Ohio State.
I don't know that it's been a couple of years ago, Joe. I thought they played last year. And it was like a game where the ball was stripped at the very end. Ohio State won. I don't know. Maybe it was a couple of years ago now. I was thinking it was 2023, which would have been last football season, which maybe he was right there a couple of years ago in terms of calendar year. But there's a lot of Notre Dame. And again, Diesel, you can expect that from Notre Dame, alum fans. But I don't know, man. I just feel like, I don't think it's going to be – I don't know if you remember this game, but back in the BCS, Alabama played Notre Dame, and it was never close. I don't think it's going to be like that.
I mean, there's a reason why people kind of roll their eyes. Oh, Notre Dame getting into the playoff.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I mean, they rolled through a schedule that they could handpick, right? Oh, it's great. Notre Dame made it here. That's why a lot of people are generally – and not for a wildly specific reason of something terrible that happened, but they're generally, down on Notre Dame just because they get whatever they want, right? They're the belle of the ball. They don't have to join a conference. They got their own TV network. They're spoken of with all this reverence, even though they hadn't really done that much in the last 40 years or 50 years of college football. And when they've gotten close, they've gotten absolutely clobbered. Somebody has whacked him upside the head with a gilded shillelagh. And so people kind of smirk at the thought of Notre Dame being in these games. And I wonder if that's in the back of some of these players' minds. And I know that history doesn't really affect the game unless you're talking about something that happened 2 years ago and some of these players or coaching staffs are still around. Maybe they think about it. But when it's a whole new crop of players, what happened in 1988 doesn't matter to these kids.
Yeah, I bet it doesn't. I'd be surprised, Diesel, the game that I just mentioned that I brought up from the BCS when Bama just steamrolled them. I would bet that 99% of the players on Notre Dame's team don't even remember that game. And that wasn't that long ago. It was 20 late, maybe 2009, something like that. Maybe Jaden Coker was the quarterback for Alabama. I'm just trying to, throw something at the wall there and see if it sticks. But it's been a while. It's been a while is my point. So, again, let us know on the text line what your prediction is, 844-326-3663. Billy Horn, he says Ohio State 38-24. Brian on the text line says Ohio State 30, Notre Dame 16. Bubba, Ohio State 40-22 over Notre Dame. Thus far, we only have one Tolo out there who has predicted Notre Dame to win the game on Monday. So continue to get those in on the text line, 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Over-under on throughout the entirety of the show, Diesel. We'll ask this question and ask for your text. Over-under, I'm going to set at 8.5. How many Notre Dame predictions we have, or how many predictions, rather, we have where Notre Dame's taken to win the game?
I don't think there's any chance it exceeds
8.5?
2-1. Like, more than one Notre Dame to every two Ohio States. I mean,
I don't know. I don't think
it
so.
It might not exceed 1-4 or 1-5. Kevin Ramsey. Well, what are you saying here, Kevin
Ramsey?
He's
inside joke.
Says heard Donnie Ray might be the new Buckeyes coach. You talking about the singer from the 70s?
No. Kevin's crazy.
What are you talking about, Kevin?
It's inside joke, Kevin. Kevin's coming at me with that one. I'll tell you during the break, but you're not
gonna pull one over on me, Kevin.
I'm with you. Very funny.
Neither one of us feels good today.
844-FAN-PHONE. Diesel, question from the texter: will Rudy be at the game Monday?
Daniel Rudiger is no longer with us, so no, Rudy will not be there. Now, will Sean Astin be there? I would hope so. That would be awesome, right? If Samwise Gamgee is there, a lot of people know him as Bob from Stranger Things. If he's there, I know Shane Gillis will be because he's been all over ESPN and the pregame shows. He's been everywhere when Notre Dame has been playing. I'm just wondering. I think if Notre Dame did not spare no expense to get Sean Astin and his family to this game in style, then I hope they lose by 30.
That's a good question. It just spawned in my head while you were talking about that. When it comes to Notre Dame football,
Rudy.
Who's the most known person that advocates Notre Dame football, whether it's an ex-coach, like when you think Notre Dame football, you think of?
I think Lou Holtz.
Lou Holtz, a good one.
Yeah, I mean, Lou Holtz was the national championship winning coach when I was a kid, so that's who I think of.
It's a real good one.
I mean, I could have said Ara Parsegian.
Do you think people nowadays, though, the young generation thinks of Lou Holtz, so when they think Notre Dame, probably not, right?
I mean, it's hard, when you're a legendary coach who went on TV for years after that, and then you had a short stint in a very different part of the country and a very different type of program. There are people who will always associate him with South Carolina now.
Sure, that's true.
And I will go to the grave saying that South Carolina would not have gone on to have the run that they have had without Lou Holtz, because he added some instant credibility. He wasn't winning a ton of football games at South Carolina. He didn't lose a lot of football games either, but he wasn't, he didn't suddenly turn them into an 8, 9, 10 win team. But I would say Lou Holtz is the reason they ended up transitioning to other better things later on.
All right, before we run to a break, our daily Dewey phone line's 844-326-3663. What's up, Dewey?
Yes, I got my prediction.
All right, let's hear it.
I don't even like this game to start with. The committee did a horrible job with the playoffs. But since we got to watch this travesty, I think Ohio State's going to wipe the plate off the nerdlings of Notre Dame. Because Notre Dame's a nerd. They don't know how to play. They don't know how to win the big games. And they're an embarrassment in the national championship games. And Ohio State, they got one up on them anyways. Oh.
Thanks, Dewey.
Dewey. Now, he brings up a fun point there, Cole. If Ohio State was playing who that was in the 12-team playoff, who would they be? Would they be the favorites against them? Like the hearts and minds? Who would they have the hearts and minds over if they were playing someone else other than Notre Dame in the national championship game? You know, you see these graphics all over social media. It's a map of the United States, and it says, here's who everybody's pulling for in the national championship game. And like the state of Ohio is painted scarlet. And then everything outside of that is gold and blue.
So
everybody's rooting against Ohio State. So if Ohio State was playing
who?
Texas,
would Ohio State be?
Would they be the hearts and minds favorites to win this thing?
No, I don't think so. Not over Texas.
You know, if they were playing Arizona State, because people would want the underdog Arizona State.
That's what I was going to
get there. Penn State, they would want Penn State to win this thing. Maybe Georgia. Maybe the world would be rooting for Ohio State over Georgia if they had made it in.
Not Oregon. I think Oregon would be light. Right?
Not Boise State, not Tennessee, not SMU. I mean, is Ohio or Indiana, is Ohio State just that hated that outside of maybe two, outside of Georgia?
I think Indiana. I think they'd be
hearts and minds favorites?
I think
over the little guy that just made it here, the plucky upstarts.
Yeah, I think
the big bullies. You know, America doesn't root for the bullies. It's like rooting for Ivan Drago in Rocky IV.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably limited because, like you said, everybody hates Ohio State. They really do.
Everybody just hates Ohio.
Well, that might be true.
Yeah. When we come back, Cole, at what point did your team's season go wrong? Everybody has that excuse in the back of their mind. Oh, if this hadn't happened, our season would have gone better. You can talk about your college team, your pro team, whoever, Tolos. We're going to need to continue your interaction. Answer the question by texting 844-FAN-PHONE or calling 844-326-3663. Where did it all go wrong for you and your team this season? That's next on the Fan Upstates. Join us next Wednesday as Cole and I are going to be live on location at Ingalls Markets at 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. Come by and see the show. We'll have you hook up on a chance to win an Ingalls gift card.
That's right.
In store. Isn't it great? You can come and just hang out with us and walk away with some money that you can spend right there at your local Ingalls Market. The topic at hand, at what point in your team's season did it fall off the rails? Did it start going wrong? 844-326-3663. You can call or text that number as Harold has done. Harold, go ahead. Who is your team number one? I think it's the South Carolina Gamecocks, but I know you also have a soft spot for Navy. At what point did their season go wrong in your mind?
Well, first of all, my score for Ohio State and Notre Dame, I'm going 38-17.
Ooh.
So that's going to be 3 scores. I said 2 the other day. I'm going to up it to 3.
And that's now, Ohio State winning the game?
Yeah, Ohio State winning 38-17.
Perfect.
That's my score.
Okay.
That's since I can't text. But listen, as far as South Carolina, it could have been better from Alabama on, but where it ended was Shane Beamer going for that fake field goal instead of kicking a field goal. Ooh. And they, coming down at the end of the game, down 1 instead of 4. And that made a big difference there at the end. But listen, I'm gonna also give you my 4 NFL picks since I can't text. Okay. I'm going Detroit over Washington.
Like it.
I like Philadelphia over the Rams.
Ooh.
I like Kansas City over. I think they'll be playing Texas.
That's right. The Houston Texans. Yep.
And I like Buffalo over the Ravens. So that's my 4 picks for the weekend on that.
I like it, Harold. Always appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Harold. If I'm saying where South Carolina's season went wrong, I'd say it was that fake punt against Ole Miss when you were in your own territory. That fake and that looked terrible. At that point, it felt like, man, we don't have a chance to win this football game. We're outclassed. They're picking up on everything that we're trying to do. The rest of the game went terribly for South Carolina after that.
I think the biggest thing that I could look at, Diesel, in terms of where South Carolina is, and again, just talking about South Carolina here since Harold started with the Gamecocks, that's okay. I think where they went wrong, where the season went wrong, was allowing those 4 to 5 to 6 officials to walk in the game in the LSU game, allowing them in Williams-Brice. I think that's where they went wrong. No, and all kidding aside, I think it was that game. I think it's the Nick Emenwari pick 6. I think the one that got called back. I think the game's over there, and I think South Carolina's a playoff team if they win that game. And I think that one play, again, we talked about it a lot, but you ask for one play. I think that one play kept the Gamecocks out of the postseason. I really do.
I know exactly where it was, Cole. And you and I were sitting side by side. We were in Death Valley, right around the 15-yard line was where the media area is. App State, Clemson came into the season feeling real good about this team as a Mountaineer fan. Thought, man, Joey Aguilar is going to throw for another 30 touchdowns. The defense it's an older defense. We're going to be good to go. I mean, I didn't have any delusions of grandeur of winning the game, but it was the third play of the game where I knew, oh no, this is going to be a rough day. I was looking at it like, I'm looking at the drive chart here, but I remember it being the third play of the game. Cade Klubnik hit a short pass on first down. App State stuffed Phil Maffa on a run on second down. And then Cade Klubnik threw a 76-yard touchdown to Brian Wesco on the third play of the game. And then I just knew right then and there, oh, this is not going to be a good season. We are not nearly the disciplined and skilled team that we thought we had coming into this season.
Wasn't it 35-0 at the end of the first quarter?
Yeah, it was.
And I think that's when you and I looked at each other like, oh, okay, this one's done, right? Like, this one's over.
It's over. I mean, Clemson won the second quarter 21-13.
Yeah.
They won the third quarter 10-7. And of course, by then, you got mostly backups in. And I think App State even had a touchdown call back. So it would have looked a tiny bit less awful. But man, that's when the season went awry for me. And I knew right then and there, it's going to be a rough season.
Tolos, continue to get your just because we change segments doesn't mean you cannot get your predictions in. In the very first segment, we We asked for your Ohio State Notre Dame predictions and the exact score. Continue to get those in on the text line if you just tuned in. You know what? For the Cowboys, Diesel, if you're asking where this is a tough one. If you're asking where my team's season went awry, I don't think it ever had a chance.
It wasn't awry.
And look, I know Dak Prescott got hurt, and I know the season, they win more games if Dak's there, right? However, I don't think – what the heck was that? Did you hear that?
Is that a jet?
That was loud.
It is. I live over – so –
I'm sorry for the Tolos.
A little heads up to the Tolos what's going on here.
That was so
We just heard
loud.
this loud –
sound like a fighter jet.
Yeah. So I live in Malden within earshot of the Donaldson Center.
Yeah.
And they test I believe they're F-16s, but I'm not positive. But they build fighter jets over there. And they do testing over there. And they do like touch and goes as well. So a lot of takeoffs, a lot of touch and goes. And constantly in the mid-afternoon. It's awesome to see, right?
Yeah.
You know, like I'll be out walking the dog. And I'm looking up in the sky, like, where the hell is this thing? Like, I start to think, what would it be like to be out in the desert with sandals on, wearing some sort of robe, and you just hear this.
The next thing you know, you're
over the horizon.
I don't even know what I was saying.
Terrifying.
I don't even know what I was talking about.
Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, but it's just like this. It literally sounded like a plane landed on the building. It was so loud, and you can't hear anything up here. You can shoot
We're in
a gun
soundproof
out there.
room.
I know what I'm saying. You could hear a gunshot out there, and that's how loud it was. I think
it was week 2 for you.
Yeah, and that getting hurt, obviously they win more games, but however, the offseason, Diesel, they did nothing during the offseason. They didn't sign anyone. They let a lot of guys go. Stephon Gilmore defensively. They didn't bring in Derrick Henry. I don't think I'll be honest with you, going into the season for my Cowboys, usually I do, but this year I had no faith and belief. Like the hardest part about being a Cowboys fan, to answer the segment question, is usually getting up to the top of the cliff and then getting kicked off the cliff. There was no even like starting the hike up the cliff this year. There was never – I don't think Cowboy fans – ever even felt like there was a chance of being remotely good this season.
Well, the sad thing is with Derrick Henry, you gave up nearly a 2,000-yard rusher this season, which is not quite double, but not that far from double what he's done in the last 3 years. He had 1,100 yards in 2023 with Tennessee, 1,500 yards in 2022. He had a monster season in 2020 when he ran for over 2,000 yards. But now you're looking at a 31-year-old running back, and maybe with Jerry, he looked back and said, well, aging running backs, we just kind of did this Ezekiel Elliott thing. I don't want to throw him a lot of money for a short stint, whether it be a year, 2 years, whatever it may be. I'm going to let somebody else make that mistake.
Yeah, good job, Jerry. And a texter brought that point up at the 915. Excuse me, the 915 said, "Call your Cowboys season went wrong when Jerry did not talk to Derrick Henry." And you just really reiterated what we said, texter. I'm sorry I didn't see that text until just now. You're right. I mean, doing nothing in free agency. You can't expect to have a successful season when you do absolutely nothing.
Very first time on the stream. Welcome, Kane. P1 Armada Elitist says Buckeyes win the Natty. Doesn't matter by how much. I don't bet on these things. He asked the question, will Lou Holtz and Ryan Day fight at the game, and who will win?
Oh,
Lou Holtz could have a shotgun and he would still lose.
Yeah, they have some beef. I don't know what it is.
And I asked Ryan Day, like, did you guys like patch it up if you figured it out? And he goes, no.
I don't blame Ryan Day. I think the blame's on Lou Holtz. I mean, ever since he criticized Ryan Day's team, I side with Ryan Day. Look, I've been on a very, very much so in favor of Ryan Day. I guess you could call it a Ryan Day apologist. I think, I'm not saying he can't do anything wrong. I think Ryan Day's but most of the time in the right.
We live in a world, Cole, where there's no such thing as bad publicity, and for lack of a better word, diss tracks are the norm, right? Trash talking people on the internet is the norm.
Yeah, but Lou's irrelevant now, man. Like, nobody even.
Yeah, he's a former national championship winning coach,
but he's just irrelevant.
Was he an on-air analyst at the time?
He was.
in the middle of a show.
Well, I think he was either doing a guest spot or on-air analyst, yeah.
But he's still a paid analyst, so it's not like he just was out in public somewhere and someone hit him with a hidden camera trick and caught Lou Holtz bashing on Ryan Day in Ohio State. Look, it's his job to be an analyst, and I put that more on Ryan Day because it's like, come on, dude, can you not handle criticism at all? Well, you can't beat Michigan. Everybody knows you dye your beard.
You think so?
Yeah, of course he does. Of course he does.
It is very black.
He's in his, late 40s, mid-40s? His hair ain't that dark.
It's dark.
I mean, and with not a single stray gray in the mix.
I'd love to have that. I mean, that'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be great.
But it doesn't look real, right? It doesn't look – Point is, Ryan Day, it's not the first time you've ever received criticism in your career. And, I get it. It's Lou Holtz. He's famous, so maybe it hurts because he's famous, because maybe you respected him. Maybe you looked up to him early in your career. But, come on, dude. Don't be a B word.
Brian Pettit on the text line says, Diesel, it was a jet. It just took off because it went past the shop. So Brian Pettit also heard it in Greenville.
Brian, where's the shop? What do you mean?
I think Brian works for the city of Greenville. I'm not sure where their shop is.
Oh, yeah. We met Brian. We met Brian down
Ingalls,
at Ingalls.
But I don't know where the city of Greenville shop is. Any other Greenville Tolos? I mean, I was talking about the Cowboys, and all of a sudden,
yeah,
I literally ducked. I didn't know what was happening.
That was Jerry Jones torpedoing another season.
That's true. He heard me. He heard me talking about him. Tiger Stripes Media says, happy Friday, Tolos. Good to hear from you, Brian. He says, give me Chiefs, Bills, Rams, and Washington Commanders. Interesting. Diesel, in the very next segment, I have a question for you, as well as the Tolos out there, when it comes to feeling bad for people. Do you feel bad for people, a certain group of people? I've been seeing a lot of these videos lately. I want to get into that next. Diesel, normally I don't critique people on how they make their money. A lot of people make money in a lot of different ways, right? Some legal, some illegal. However, I ask the question, as TikTok is on the verge, allegedly, of being banned. I have TikTok. You don't. I watch way too much TikTok. I do way too much of this, way too much scrolling. Do you feel bad for like all these social media influencers who are going to take I would assume, a pretty significant hit to their salary if TikTok does get banned?
No. Not one bit. Have you not watched any of these influencer videos?
Yeah, I have. Trust me.
Like
way too many.
It'll be some girl at the beach wearing a thong, twerking in the sand with a little kid trying to build a sandcastle like 5 feet away.
Right.
She don't care. She don't care that she's showing this kid something he's not supposed to see for at least another 5 or 6 years on HBO late at night. Like, I can't stand influencer culture. The do anything I can do for attention, whether it's legal, whether it's safe, whether it's smart, whether it's just flat out wrong. Like I'm good riddance. Now they're going to move over to other platforms, right?
YouTube, Snapchat.
They're going to move back to Instagram. They're going to move to Snapchat.
But they won't have that same revenue.
They won't. They'll have to rebuild,
yeah.
Right? It's especially if you forsook the other apps to make your living
100%.
on TikTok.
That's right.
That's going to be tough. But then again, Cole, people are going to be looking for you on the other apps.
They will be. However, like I get that YouTube and all these other apps are really, really profitable as well. I mean, YouTube in particular. But there were so many influencers, I believe, who I think they also did YouTube. And I don't want to categorize them all together, Diesel, but I think there were so many of them that focused so much on TikTok that – they kind of put all their eggs in that basket. And you know what? I don't know if they ever thought that TikTok would be banned, right? It just sounds weird. I don't feel bad for them either. It gets into like when you get into this conversation, you get into the whole like moral conversation of somehow, some way, how you're making your money and using TikTok to promote other things. And look, again, people make their money in a lot of different ways. I'm not, going to judge that, but I don't feel bad for them. I really don't.
No, I mean we're living in as entrepreneurial of a society as we've ever lived in. I mean, there's people out there who are who've got $100,000 in the bank from showing videos of their butt cracks on TikTok. They've never had a regular job. They don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to do. All they know is how to make content. And I'm sure a lot of them, they didn't start making content like what they make now. It snowballs and you do what you have to do, I guess, to get people to click and pay attention to your stuff. Like with TikTok though, I mean, there's certain, and you would know better than I do because you have a TikTok. You probably created quite a few TikToks. The way that app was built, I think made mobile content creation fast and easy in a way that the other legacy platforms like YouTube, Instagram, etc. don't.
Right.
So it's going to be tough for some people to transition over to a different. Now they've also known for months now that this ban was coming. So I don't have any love lost, or I'm not shedding any tears for the influencers that waited until the last minute to figure out, oh crap, they're really banning this thing. I got to go figure out YouTube. I
would imagine that a large majority of them probably thought it wasn't true. Maybe a large majority thought that Trump might try to save it somehow if he were to get elected like he did. And I don't know if anybody, whether it's Trump or Elon or what's the guy on Shark Tank, the bald guy? I saw where
Kevin O'Leary.
Yeah, I saw where Kevin O'Leary was trying to buy it. I'll say this: part of me here's where I am on the influencer stuff. Part of me is like, I respect them because content creation's hard and not everybody can do it. And then the other part of me, Diesel's like, I don't respect them because, to your point, most of them never worked a day in their life in terms of actually going out and grinding and trying to earn money in a way that, I do or other people do. So I'm split on it.
What's harder, Cole? Flipping your feet over your head and showing everybody the holiest of holies, or finding somebody who will film that and still want to be friends with you after you're done?
As long as they're getting paid. I guess it doesn't matter. It's interesting. I don't feel overly bad for them. I
No.
do find it interesting, though, that Kevin O'Leary or whoever hasn't got the deal from China yet.
Yeah.
I thought it would already be bought.
It's the influencer culture that I'm not sad to see change or be forced into change because it's not going anywhere, right?
No, it's not.
There'll
be another app.
Yeah, there will be another app, or there will be a push to move over to one of the other platforms. I don't feel bad for that culture to take a hit because it's bad, man. It's bad.
Some of it can be really dark.
Yeah, the staged videos that you see all the time. It's just not. It's not good. It's not good content. It's not real content. It makes a lot of people feel really bad about themselves as well. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. You Tolos who are watching on the stream, awesome. We're on live on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Shout out to Matt Mullinax, who gets his score prediction in. Matt, are you any relation to Ricky? Are you brothers? Are you buddies? Do you live next door to one another? Are you cousins? That's interesting. But hey, be a part of the show. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Find us on the air. 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM if you're listening in Spartanburg, and everywhere all over the upstate and all over the country on the free Odyssey app. On the other side of the break, Cole, is it possible that we're going to have a major and legitimate competitor to the NBA's dominance in the near future? Do we even need it? That's next on the Fan Upstate. It's no secret, Cole, that NBA viewership in America is falling precipitously year over year over year. The NBA cannot get new people to tune in and watch the games. They did what they did during, the whole woke crisis, the craze. They pushed a lot of political commentary in people's faces. A lot of people said never watching the NBA again, and they have struggled to get viewership back.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big problem that Adam Silver, I'm sure, has nightmares over on a weekly basis. How do we get our own domestic audience to tune in and watch our games? I've tried recently watching more NBA than ever before. I watch it because I put a little something on the games on Underdog Fantasy, and I would rather tune in and watch the athlete do it or not do it. Let's be real. Not do it happens a lot more often. I don't win very much on Underdog Fantasy. But I would rather watch it with my own two eyes and see what's happening than just track a little bar at the bottom of my pick in the app, right? And the NBA, as my experience has gone just over the past couple of weeks, tuning in and watching more NBA, is about what I thought it was. It's a lot of hero ball. It's a lot of games ending with scores up in the 120s and 130s, which doesn't feel like there's any defense being played. It's weak ticky-tack fouls. It's a lot of flopping. It's just not a great product to watch right now. That's not to say that Anthony Edwards and Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo aren't great basketball players doing phenomenal athletic feats on the basketball court.
Yeah.
But you got to tune in and watch more than just a handful of stars go out there and do what they do, drive the lane from the three-point line, and nobody steps in his way. I mean, that's not good basketball to watch. It doesn't feel like I'm watching real professional basketball, which makes me scratch my head, Cole, when I find out that Maverick Carter, who is LeBron James's business manager, has helped LeBron make a tremendous amount of money, is advising on a brand new international basketball league that they say will supposedly rival the NBA. And I wonder why anyone in America will care.
Anyone in America, the average Joe? I don't know that the average Joe will care.
And by anyone, I mean a sizable enough audience to make this financially viable.
I think that when you talk about international play, the first thing that comes to mind, and again, I have some really intriguing audio with Shaq and Adam Silver about the NBA and the ratings, kind of what you led the segment off with. I think international play overall, Diesel, is a better product. You look at the NBA now with the players that we have in our association that are really attracting, championships and viewership, and it's international players. We have, in my opinion, I think we've gotten to a point where the international game, when you talk about guys like Luka Doncic, I think the international game is as good as, if not better than the domestic game, because you just have a better product when it comes to the style they play, add in the defense. And I'm not saying like Luka and all these international players are the best defenders in the world, but from a just a simply product standpoint, I like the idea of it because the international players are already dominating the NBA.
So details are sparse on when they're going to play this season, how they're going to play this season. Are players that play in the NBA who are international players or American players for that matter, are they going to be able to go play in this league in their off season if they choose to? The NBA off season isn't tremendously long. Is it a viable sports league if they're trying to squeeze it into about 3 months, 2 months out of the year? I mean, or does it feel like just sort of a curiosity? You tune in and watch in the middle of summer because there's nothing really else on. And also, Cole, how many of those international players do you know when they strictly play internationally? Very few. The best of the best all come to the United States to play basketball in the NBA because it's so much more financially lucrative for them to come here and play in the NBA. But it's also true, Cole, that especially in China, the NBA is gangbusters. It is massive in the NBA. I looked up one study here. It says 25% of Chinese adults say that the NBA is their favorite sport. 1 in 4 Chinese adults love the NBA, which is really fascinating. And, you see for years, the NBA and Adam Silver have been cozying up with China, making deals with them, sending a couple of games here and there over there, sending youth players, youth stars over there to get exposed to that international market.
They may have some competition in the future, but I think for the most part, in the near future, it wouldn't really rival the NBA. Is what I mean there. I don't think it would rival the NBA in the near future. It's similar to what the WNBA has created with the 3-on-3 basketball league. Also brings to mind Diesel with Live Golf, right? How it's lured many of the sport of golf's top players. So,
well, that's the big difference in the way these the golf does what it does different from every other major sport. Is Live is paying a tremendous amount of money to these stars contractually just to say, just come over here and play. Like I don't even know if Live golfers get anything for actually winning a tournament, or if it's just they are being paid a gigantic salary by Live Golf. Live was able to get star players to leave the most lucrative golf tour in the world by essentially guaranteeing them money up front.
And I don't think that'll ever happen in this league. I don't think unless somehow, some way the players ever got to a point where they were getting equity, in the league, allowing them to make a lot of money. I don't see it happening. I do think that, I do think though, it's interesting from the standpoint of just having the talent over there throughout the cities. And I know they were talking about Singapore, Diesel, as maybe a destination for one of these, these leagues to take place. They would rotate cities, so they'd stay in a city for 2 weeks, right? Pack up and go to the next city. They did say that LeBron's not going to be an investor in the venture. So I don't think in the near, let's say 10 to 15 years, I don't think it would be in competition with the NBA. I don't think it would rival the NBA. And I don't think you would see much crossover. Here's the deal. When you look at the top players who aren't in the NBA, they're already going overseas. So I think you could continue to see more and more of a push from American players that do play in that league that necessarily aren't good enough to play in the NBA.
It's funny, international leagues or international players, the best of the best from around the world, they come to the NBA, and our C-level talent or D-level talent, if you want to call it the NBA D-League, right? Our D-level talent goes over there.
Yeah.
So if our D-level talent is good enough to play, start, and make a living overseas, I'm not concerned about international play at all. And here's another big reason for it, Cole. This sounds like an impressive number. This league is seeking $5 billion in investments to get started. Billion. And $5 billion sounds like a lot of money. But when you talk about the size and scope and the travel expenses and the marketing and all that stuff, $5 billion is nothing, man, because there are 4 NBA franchises worth more than $5 billion. The 4th most valuable franchise in the NBA, the Boston Celtics, are worth $4.7 billion. The Lakers, Knicks, and Warriors are all worth over 6. As a matter of fact, the Warriors are worth over $7 billion. So tell me how a league with paltry investment numbers of $5 billion compared to individual NBA franchises being worth $5 billion, how is it going to survive? How is it going to be internationally viable? Why, as an American, should I care?
No,
why should I watch this?
You shouldn't as an American. I think the $5 billion will get them started, but if it's profitable within the first couple of years, I think it could survive. But to answer your question on why it should entertain us, I don't think there is one. And now, unless ratings just continue to plummet, and I don't know how bad it could get. And I really think it's going to bounce back, because it always does. Like, the ratings always have a bounce back. But if you were to just talk about the extreme, Diesel, if somehow, some way the ratings just continued to plummet, maybe Adam Silver then starts to get a little nervous because of what's going on.
Well, look, the only thing that I think would be functional and viable here is if an NBA team just straight up says, yeah, we'll go play in this international league. If it's the Lakers, if it's the Celtics, if it's the Bulls, whoever, a big brand, right? The Knicks, if they'll say, okay, guess what? We're going to send our entire team to play in this league. Because otherwise, if I don't know who any of these guys are, I'm not going to pay attention. In America, we don't really care at all about also ran leagues. How many times have billionaires tried to get secondary football leagues off the ground? There was the Alliance of American Football. Remember that?
Yeah.
There was the XFL that tried and failed twice, that had to merge with the USFL to be viable. And how long is that going to be viable? When was the last time you watched a USFL team or UFL? I don't even know what they call it anymore.
Right. There was two at one time, and they didn't last.
Yeah.
I
it was the American Basketball League that failed.
Here's some intriguing audio, though. You started the segment off about talking about ratings. This was Shaq and Adam Silver in the big podcast recently that Shaq does, talking about those exact ratings. This is interesting.
A lot of talk about viewership, whether it's up or down. I'd like to hear your point of view of that. And you think we'll ever get consistently the same views like we got on Christmas Day?
I think the fact is, part of the reason for the change in the new television deals is that one of the advantages of the NBA is that we have a very young audience, an audience that advertisers like, an audience that influencers like, but they're not watching as much traditional television that they historically did. I'm now in that official older demographic, in that something like 70% of primetime viewership is comprised of people 55 and older. You got a few years to go. Adam's got a longer time to go. But young people, they're watching an enormous amount of screen time, but not traditional television. Right. It's social media, certainly streaming services, YouTube.
Your views on YouTube, like cut-ups of games, get like 10 million by the next morning. This younger generation is watching the 10-minute version at a crazy amount. Like, those numbers are staggering.
It's a great point, because by almost any measure, there's never been more engagement in the NBA than there is at this moment.
So that's interesting.
If they're getting 10 million views on a highlight reel, what is it like for somebody who only watches highlight reel? And by definition, highlight reel are the highlights, the best parts of the game.
Sure.
They couldn't sit down and watch an NBA game because they would find it unsufferably slow and boring.
But I think that's a large part of why we are where we are when it comes to NBA viewership being down. And you and I have talked about this in the past when it comes to NBA viewership, but I thought the guy that was with Shaq on that podcast brought up an excellent point with the tens of millions of views on YouTube. By the next morning at 8 o'clock, those kids all night or on their phone watching videos. That is only going to continue in my mind. And to Adam Silver's point about the demographics of traditional television, that's only going to decline with streaming. So, like I'm not saying the NBA is not dead or we shouldn't make, a big deal of this. But while we talk about NBA ratings being down, it is interesting to note that maybe they're just being viewed in a different bucket, right? Because it is a completely different bucket that they're being viewed in. And you're probably getting more views on those platforms than you are combined games for an entire night.
Sure. Ratings, and unless it says otherwise, I always assume ratings mean traditional television ratings, right?
That's
not a combined, and I don't even know how you track this, if it's just posted by NBA.com or on the official NBA YouTube channel or whatever. You could go back and say, okay, well, in 3 days, we put up a highlight reel of this Lakers Mavs game, and it was viewed 10 million times in 3 days. We're going to count that as 10 million viewers. Now, certainly that looks great when you add that to the declining television cable subscription viewership. It helps, but how do you monetize that? I mean, I'm sure they are putting little ad spots in between to kind of force feed ads down your throat.
Yeah.
They're putting when the Lakers used to have the wish.com logo on their jersey. A lot of these teams have that now. The ad placement is there, but I'm just thinking, like, do you really have a super engaged audience? Are you creating that lifelong fan?
I think it would be super intriguing to do a side-by-side comparison of the NBA, the NFL, college football, and, throw in Major League Baseball, throw in hockey, throw in 7 or 8 total, Diesel. Let's put all of them side by side and do a comparison of traditional TV viewership. We know the NBA traditional TV viewership is on the decline. Mm-hmm. What about the other sports? What about NFL? I know the NFL's not, because NFL's freaking king right now. They might be in a better spot than they've ever been. But other sports outside of the NFL, are they noticing the same trends in those sports when it comes to traditional TV numbers going down, but social numbers going up? Because if they were seeing the same trends, then you could say, oh, maybe it's not just an NBA problem. Maybe we're making too much of this NBA problem. Maybe it's just a sign of where we are in society in terms of content and how we, engage content.
I'm glad you brought that up. Again, it's hard to get somebody to combine the data here, okay? Most of the time when you find data, you're finding traditional television data. Looking at 2023, the most watched primetime telecasts of 2023, who's shocked? Most of them are NFL football. You have to go 1 all the way down to 15 before you find a telecast that was not the NFL. Number 15 was the Oscars. Then you go to 16, and you got to scroll all the way down to, 22 was Next Level Chef, an episode of a Next Level Chef
that Gordon
show. I have no idea. But then you just keep scrolling. It's almost all NFL.
Yeah.
The NFL is absolutely dwarfing other sports. The NCAA basketball championship, UConn versus San Diego State, was 31. You got NBA Finals Game 5 at 35, Grammys at 36. A lot of sports. NFL, NCAA basketball Final Four, 60 minutes for some reason. That's really odd. But I mean, you gotta go a long way, Cole, before you find. I mean, even in the top 50, it appears as if around 45 of the top 50 most viewed telecasts were sports, and most of those were the NFL. Just regular season games here, by the way. The only thing that competes with NFL regular season are championship games in the NBA Finals and in the NCAA Final Four.
Does that surprise you, though?
No.
I mean, those numbers aren't surprising to me at all. And again, I think we all know the NFL's king, but I just find it really, really weird that the NFL is still getting those numbers live on traditional TV. Like, that just shows you how big the gap is in my mind, right? That shows you how much disparity there is right now when you talk about having that gap between NFL and NBA and the traditional TV viewership at NBA. It's not there. I love what he said, though. I mean, he's dead on the money when it comes to NBA on YouTube. So, for example, if I just randomly search Diesel NBA on YouTube, and let's see the first few videos that come up. NBA Cavaliers versus the Thunder last night, full game highlights, which, by the way, was a blowout. The Thunder were up by like 40 within the first 30 minutes of the game. Almost over 500,000 views. So, you're talking about a video that hasn't even been up 24 hours. Again, I think it depends on where you are in the country and what time of year it is.
If you could very crudely extrapolate that data and say, all right, we got 32 teams in the NBA. That's roughly 16 games a night. I know that's not dead on accurate. You're talking about 8 million views a day.
That's right.
On your content.
At least. And that's just off of YouTube.
And that's just YouTube, right?
Yeah, you're talking the NBA. There's no doubt the NBA probably gets 15 to 20 million views per day on social platforms. I think that's fair to say.
Texter says UFL crashes harder than the Cowboys this year. Taking shots.
Texter, who was that?
John
Dog. Come on, John
Dog. That was unnecessary.
What are we doing here taking shots?
Kane says they could start an international basketball league, call it the IBA. At the end of the season, they can place the best team of both leagues and have a super championship game. Well, Kane, I say, why not call it the IBS, the International Basketball System? Because I'll only be watching it while I'm on the toilet.
I won't even watch that. Good for you to watch. Good for you to watch. Watch it all. Diesel, we had a really fantastic conversation with Bill Bender of Sporting News. previewing the national championship Monday. And again, we're not going to be here on Monday, so we'll give you as much national championship coverage as possible. Bill Bender, Sporting News, next. down. It's okay. We heard some Clemson defensive coordinator audio earlier where we had that same issue. Bill, appreciate you hopping on with us, man. I'll tell you, this is a fascinating national championship matchup as you up there in Ohio obviously talk a lot about Ohio State football, Bill, but I can imagine that the SEC, the anti-SEC fans who are Ohio State fans also are excited about this matchup, maybe even more excited that they don't have to play an SEC team. How are you, Bill?
Well, thanks for having me on. No, I mean, there's a lot of excitement here. I grew up in Central Ohio. I went to a Catholic school. I have so many friends and family that are fans of both schools, and I'm kind of this neutral bystander in some ways, because I like both teams. It's going to be fun to watch. And I think for Notre Dame, I've kind of made this point over the last couple of weeks. When I was growing up here, Notre Dame was probably the more hated school nationally. I think that was universal through the Holtz era. And I would say in the 21st century, Ohio State, at least down your way, is probably hated a little more. I could be wrong.
No, it sounds right. Right.
Bill, considering the number of text messages we get on a daily basis that end with OH, expecting us to say IO, we got a lot of transplants from the state of Ohio that have moved this way. This game really feels like a good example of strength on strength. Two really good defenses, two really good offenses. I know Notre Dame hasn't been quite as prolific in the playoffs, but over the course of the regular season, they were putting up a ton of points. As long as you've been around football and as many games that you've seen like this, where each team's relative strengths are pretty similar, what ultimately ends up being the deciding factor in games like this?
Notre Dame can't turn the ball over. I think Ohio State's got a little more firepower offensively. You saw it the last 2 years when these teams played. I mean, Notre Dame's defense will not get beat deep. They'll do what they can to keep everything in front, much like Texas did. But, I mean, do they have enough offensive firepower? In these two games the last 2 years, they scored 10 points in one and 14 in the other. They lost 21-10 and 17-14. I mean, so that tells you right there, you're going to see an old-school defensive battle where both teams kind of get after it. I mean, they are the top two scoring defenses in the country. But it's going to be fun finding out. And I think that's why I think the margin for error is less for Notre Dame, and they really can't turn the football over.
Bill, I'm not looking at the stats from the last game for Ohio State at the moment against Texas, but you talk about firepower. I remember back with Chip Kelly and Ryan Day in the Michigan game early in this, later in the season. Obviously, we know how that one ended. And then I think back to what we just saw with Ohio State and Texas. Do you see an issue sometimes with Chip Kelly getting that firepower involved? I mean, again, I'm not looking at the stats, but I think Jeremiah Smith had like one target the entire night. Is that a trend or is that just a blip in your mind?
I think that was a blip. I think Texas did everything in their power to take him away. Early they threw a deep pass to him that he couldn't quite come up with the catch. It was a little high. If he makes that catch, we're gushing about Jeremiah Smith all over again. So, they're balanced and they have a lot of good players. And I think Chip Kelly's done a pretty good job managing that. And, like I said, the firepower at the receiver position is pretty substantial. So if they can, this is a team that outscored Oregon and Tennessee 35-0 in the first quarter. So that's the other key in this game. Notre Dame has to. It's like that old Mike Tyson knockout I'm sure the three of us remember from back in the day. Not against Logan Paul, but back in the 80s.
Find him on Twitter at BillBender92. Let's say for a moment that Notre Dame wins this football game. Will Ohio State fans hold this loss against Ryan Day the same way and with the same fervor as they hold the Michigan losses against him? Because the narrative – it's funny is the narrative around 3 out of these 4 coaches that were in the semifinals was all that they can't win the big games. If Ryan Day can get them there but not win it, just how much are Ohio State fans going to be willing to hold that against him?
I'm trying to wrap my mind around that, honestly. I was thinking about it. I was giving it real thought today when I was just kind of sitting around pretending to work for 10 minutes. And so – know how they would handle that, because you would be 13-3 with two of your losses being to Ohio or to Notre Dame and Michigan, two schools that are considered rivalries, even though they don't play Notre Dame a ton. And it's kind of like how I feel about Green Bay. I'm a Packers fan, and I'm like, and they had a successful season, but got swept by the Lions, got swept by the Vikings, got beat by the Bears, and then lose to the Eagles. And you're kind of like, was that a good season or not? I guess that's kind of the thought process that might happen if they lose to Notre Dame on Monday night, if that makes sense. I mean, obviously they got farther than the Packers did in the playoffs.
You can give him a follow on Twitter, on X, at BillBender92, senior writer for Sporting News, joining us right here on Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate, 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, and on the free Odyssey app. If you have a question regarding the national championship, feel free to text in at 844-FAN-PHONE. We can try to ask your question to Bill Bender. Bill, when you look at this game, obviously we've talked about the firepower that Ohio State has. Both have very good defenses. Chip Kelly might be a little extra added a wrinkle, if you will, on Ohio State's side. Do you balance the added wrinkles that Ohio State has with Chip Kelly and the firepower? Do you balance that with what seems like an even kill Marcus Freeman? Are we giving that guy enough credit for what he's done this year?
Well, there's going to be a lot written about Marcus Freeman over the next week or so, and deservedly so. I have a piece coming. Hope it's coming tomorrow. I spoke with Jim Tressel, his old coach at Ohio State, and Jim was quick to point out that, and I'm guilty of it, comparing Marcus to Jim. Said Marcus is his own guy. He learned and really relies on the special teams. Does a great job with that defense. They're very connected and have a veteran team. And they're not turning the ball over. I think he had a couple coaching wrinkles in there against Georgia that were super helpful. One that was a little controversial, I suppose, but don't jump off sides. That would be my survival tip. It was a lot of fun talking to Jim Tressel about Marcus Freeman, and his stock couldn't be higher right now. And I think the greatest compliment of all is he's, as somebody kind of brings what we were talking about earlier, he's made Notre Dame likable. I mean, do you guys like him at least a little bit?
That's a good point.
That's true. Well, Bill, I also grew up in the era of the movie Rudy. So, as a kid, I had no reason or no understanding as to why I put on a blue and gold hat with an ND on the forehead, but I had one. And so I always had this kind of soft spot in the back of my heart for Notre Dame. Can we get your thoughts on Tom Allen as the new DC at Clemson? He was introduced earlier today. Some would say it's kind of an odd move to go from a team that made the college football playoff semifinals to head down the road to the South, to an area that he hasn't coached in for a majority of his career. What are your thoughts on that? And now do you look at the combination of Dabo Swinney, Garrett Riley, and Tom Allen to be a national championship contending staff as early as next year or the following?
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm working on our early top 25 that everybody puts out, and everybody, when I put it out, everybody's going to say, well, that's trash. And then I'm going to point out that last year when we put this early top 25, we had Texas, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and then we had those three in the top 5. I didn't have Penn State in the top 5. So it's not that hard at the top. It's where you get into, like, I'm in the teens, and then it gets a little ugly. I do have Clemson in the top 10 right now. I like the Tom Allen hire. I think he brings a lot of energy to that side of the ball. They've got some strong linebackers coming, but particularly linebackers look like they're going to be pretty good next year with who's coming back. And, they have a couple guys in the transfer portal, but not too many. And I think Tom Allen, you're going to find that you like his energy. He had it at Indiana. He had it at Penn State. He's really good at that side of the ball.
Bill, when you talk about the spread on this game, are you one that when a spread comes out in a championship game overreacts to it? Or do you think that the touchdown plus spread that's in favor of the Buckeyes will be the right side on Monday?
I've taken the favorite the last 2 years, and expected a blowout with Georgia and TCU. Maybe not a 58-point blowout, but definitely expected a blowout. Expected Michigan to win by the spread last year. I think it was double digits or close to. And this one I'm just a little leery of. I think Notre Dame knows they can play with them. I just worry that if they show up like they did in the first half against Penn State, they'll get beat by 3 touchdowns. If they show up like they did against Georgia, you're going to have a 1-score game either way. So, my prediction, if you want me to give it, I put 27-17 Ohio State, and I think it'll probably be something like that, and maybe a game that in some ways resembles Texas-Ohio State. Texas made 2 really big mistakes in that game. They had the screen pass at the end of the half, and then running a toss play on 2nd and goal into Caleb Downs, who is one of the best players in the country. So, other than that, it was a really competitive game.
Bill, I don't know how you don't screenshot every single, this take is trash or this list is trash, file them away and just wait for the end of the season so that you can fire back at whoever deserves it the most. If it was me, man, I would be I would be petty. I would do that. I just wonder, number one, I would guess you're probably coming down to Atlanta for the game.
Sure.
And if not, I just want to let you know there is a ticket available for $127,000 suite level if you're willing to pay it.
No, I'll be there. I'm flying down Friday and getting everything in order so I can get down there and have a good time. I can't wait. Like I said, the opportunity to cover these 2 schools in that setting. I was at the Notre Dame Ohio State game last year, and it was a ton of fun. And I think this game's going to have a lot of heat on it with these 2. And I know there's not an SEC team in it, but that's okay. It's going to be a fun game.
Who do you like on the quarterback matchup? Like if I asked you, and I know quarterback play doesn't completely dictate the outcome, Bill, but if I asked you to lean one way, Riley Leonard, Will Howard, both, good quarterbacks, both seem to be, outstanding young men as well. We had Will Howard Riley Leonard was on our station with Rich Eisen yesterday, and just both seem to have their head on straight. I don't know what their NFL future will hold, but if you had to sway one way or the other just because of the quarterback position, which side would you sway to?
Well, they're different. It's hard to. I'm going to try not to duck this answer. Probably Will Howard, because he's been so efficient and getting the ball to his playmakers, and really accuracy has been a thing for him. He will throw an interception or 2 in there, not 2 hopefully, but he will turn the ball over occasionally. But in general, he takes what the defense gives him. Now, Riley Leonard, it's a different evaluation because of the ability to run the ball. I don't know if you saw his basketball highlights that have been circulating. Man, he throws down a mean baseline dunk. So, he's a really good athlete, and he adds in that running game. But for Riley Leonard, like I said, for Notre Dame in general, they just cannot have 2 or 3 turnovers in this game. If they do, it will be bad. And the good news is that's been their strength this year. They have feasted off turnovers. They've protected the football, and they're going to need a few if they want to win this game.
Bill, I look at how that Penn State Notre Dame game played out and how Penn State got up early, got to a 10-point lead, and they could have put the thing away. There was that drop on the goal line that really, I think, did a lot to change the momentum of that game. But if one of these teams happens to get down 10 or 14 points, which one do you like to kind of, in most likely chance, fold under that pressure? And which one do you like to maybe be able to dig out of that hole if we get to a 2-score differential at some point?
Well, Ohio State can come back. That's why I would never feel safe playing those receivers. If Notre Dame got down 14, you'd be like, oh man, that's going to be tough. Then again, they did get down 10 points to Penn State, who had 2 1,000-yard rushers and was controlling everything in the first half. And then, Steve Angeli, a backup quarterback, makes a few plays. They get a field goal, come out and tie the game and set up the wild fourth quarter. So I would say, to answer your question, Notre Dame would be more trouble if they fell behind double digits. And we'll see how these teams handle the emotion of the game. Neither one of them, when you have the top 2 scoring defenses, yard's going to matter. And I know that's a cliche you hear coaches say, but when I went to this game last year, I really felt that way. Like, you can kind of want to say be lazy when you watch a game, but you can kind of go on autopilot a little bit when the first downs pile up. This game, every first down will literally matter.
Bill, really appreciate your time today. I know you got a lot going on, and for you to join us, absolutely enjoyed our time together. Best of or safe travels, rather. Is you probably won't need the luck as much as Notre Dame will, but safe travels this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon, Bill.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on, guys. Have a great week.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill Bender, Sporting News, senior writer. Fantastic stuff. As you can follow him on Twitter at BillBender92. A really good follow. Again, Sporting News, been around a long time. So appreciate Bill's time. He's going Buckeyes. I'm going
We've talked national championship game today. We've talked international basketball, among other things. But, Cole, there's so much more going on out there in the sports world. And we cover it all right here in this segment. We call it our Daily Wires. Here's the buzz happening out there. Joyce Edwards scored 21 points to lead number 2 South Carolina past number 19 Alabama last night. 76-58, an absolute beatdown. Chloe Kitts scored 10 points and had 13 rebounds. Miley Fawiley scored 16 points. Tahina Pow added 11. They are now 17-1, 5-0 in the SEC, and have 6 straight wins over ranked opponents. South Carolina women's basketball has a chance to be pretty good this year.
You know, the reaction that I have towards that is that when you read that, I don't know the last time, other than Joyce Edwards, who plays at South Carolina, I don't know the last time I heard someone young named Joyce. Joyce is an old lady name, right? Have you heard of a young professional? What's your name?
Not
Joyce.
A lot of Ednas out there.
Joyce is I've not heard a young person named Joyce in a very long time. I bet her mom's name was Margaret.
Maybe. You gotta be an old soul to have an old name like that. Speaking of the South Carolina Gamecocks, Dawn Staley signed a contract extension with South Carolina women's basketball through 2030, becoming the highest paid coach in women's college basketball. The deal is worth approximately $25 million over 6 years. That's $4.1 million per year.
Not bad, right?
She is now on par, Cole, with the 14th highest paid coach in men's NCAA basketball, Nick Cronin at UCLA.
Dawn making the big bucks. But I'll tell you this. She deserves it. She deserves it. I think she does.
Former Jacksonville Jaguars and Raiders head coach Jack Del Rio has been named the head coach of the Paris Musketeers of the ELF, European League of Football. So I guess they're trying to bring some experience of it. I mean, he's like one game under 500 as a head coach. I'm not sure hiring Jack Del Rio is what you think it is.
That's strange. Right?
Yeah. The Miami Dolphins will play in the NFL's first ever regular season game in Spain when Madrid hosts a matchup next season at iconic Bernabeu Stadium. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, it sounds
the league announced this earlier today. The Dolphins will be designated as the home team at Real Madrid's venue, which features a soccer pitch that retracts to make way for a field that can be used for American football. It has a capacity of just over 78,000 people.
Not football.
Not football. No, they're gonna see. This is how you know they take their football seriously.
Yeah.
They're like, sorry, you Americans are not gonna put your cleats on our grass.
Right.
We're gonna pull our grass out of the way and let you have the subterranean grass.
Gotcha.
We talked about this earlier in the show. Called Maverick Carter, LeBron James' business manager, has been enlisted as an advisor by a group of investors seeking to raise $5 billion to form an international basketball league that would serve as a rival to the NBA. There's no way, no how this thing works. American sports suffer no rivals.
I don't think we'll ever talk about it over here and in the United States of America, but maybe overseas, maybe it does gain traction. But like you said earlier, I don't really care.
The way you described it, where it goes to a venue, stays there for a couple of weeks, and goes to another venue, that feels awful for fan engagement.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, come and look at the spectacle of players you don't know playing good basketball. Yeah, it just wouldn't interest me at all. But hey, I'm not a Singaporean. Singaporeese?
No, not last time I checked.
No. Alex Ovechkin broke one NHL record and in the process moved a step closer to another one last night. Alex broke the mark for the most goaltenders scored on in a career. He scored on 179 goalies. He beat, this is going to be a tough one, Levi Marilainen.
Yeah, that's right.
In overtime to give the Capitals a 1-0 victory over the Senators in Ottawa. Los Angeles Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani is donating $500,000 to support firefighters and animals affected by the wildfires in the Los Angeles region. That's nice, right? $500,000. Kind of light, though, when you consider that his translator stole $17 million.
No.
And he didn't even notice. It feels a little light, Shohei. Throw like $1 million. Throw $5 million. You've got it.
It's ball on a budget.
You got it. It's funny, Cole. There was an episode of I'm trying to remember the name of the TV show. It was an HBO TV show, Entourage, where LeBron James, Mark Wahlberg, Matt Damon, and a couple other celebrities were in this episode. They were trying to get the star of the show, who's an actor on the show, to throw some money at some African charity. And he's like, well, I can give 10 grand. They're like, 10 grand?
Not enough.
You made like $5 million on your last movie.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, fine. $500,000? You're like, yeah, $500,000.
Better.
Feels appropriate. Cole, this one, I still could not find any credible sources to confirm this story because it's so outlandish that I feel like it needed confirmation from like an ABC, NBC, Fox, big time news network, Reuters, something like that. But I'm going to read it for you anyway.
Where'd you find this at then?
This was in our like topic pulse that helps us kind of glean the biggest and best stories that are going viral on social media. So again, viral on social media. Don't know the veracity of this story, but if it's true, it's pretty awful. Morocco has plans to kill up to 3 million stray dogs ahead of co-hosting the 2030 FIFA World Cup with Spain and Portugal. They use the word cull. That's a much nicer word than kill.
Yeah, cull is better.
So they're apparently resorting to methods such as poisoning and just flat out shooting them to get rid of all the stray dogs. Animal welfare organizations and activists, including Jane Goodall, have condemned the campaign, urging FIFA to intervene and halt the killings.
That's gruesome. That is definitely gruesome. I don't know. I mean, if that's true,
I guess it's a major problem in Morocco, and to this point they haven't dealt with it. So now they have to go to extreme measures to deal with it. And it's distasteful, but you got to do what you got to do, I guess, if you want to play on the international stage.
No more dogs. They're killing the pets, as they say.
They're eating the dogs.
All right, Diesel, we talked about this. We teased this at the very end of the show yesterday. This was a post I put on our Facebook page, the Fan Upstate. I need to know from you, Tolos, what is the oldest car / highest amount of mileage that you have driven or still drive that still runs? We had a tremendous amount of feedback on our Facebook page, and I need to hear from you, Tolos, on this next. So Diesel, I wanted to get into this. We teased this yesterday at the very end of the show. We had a lot of feedback on our Facebook page about this yesterday when I posted this at the Fan Upstate. If you don't like our page on Facebook, make sure you do that. A lot of great content on there. You can watch the show anytime there as well. But my car that I've had for a few years, Diesel, is getting up to like 150,000 miles. And for me, I think that's a lot.
How many were on it when you bought it?
70.
70. Okay. So you've doubled the mileage.
I've doubled it. I think in my little old brain, I think, 150,000 is a lot of miles, like I hope it keeps running. Yeah. Well, I was talking to a couple of friends of mine, and that's what kind of spurred this, and got a lot of comments on our Facebook page. 150,000 miles is nothing. So I asked the question, what's the oldest vehicle / amount of mileage that you've ever owned that still ran? And already a lot of response coming in because, again, to me, I thought 150,000 miles on my car was a lot. But when you hear things like Stephen Webb, who posted on our Facebook page 4 minutes ago in response to the question, it kind of blows your mind. Stephen Webb says, I have a 2007 Chevy Silverado with 378,263 miles on it.
Wow, I got choked up just thinking about it.
When it needs work, I have a 2006 Ford F-150 Lariat with 267,000 miles on it to drive. That's over 600,000 between the two. Total taxes for both, $29.
Love it.
That is insane. So that's what I want to hear from you, Tolos. The way you can text the show is the same number you use to call the show. If you did not know, a couple of weeks ago, the number did change. All one number now, 844-FAN-PHONE. That's phone with an F, 844-326-3663. We're going to get to some of these on Facebook on the post, but also on the text line, Diesel. Are you in the same boat as some of these Tolos who are driving ancient merchandise?
Yeah, I do have an older vehicle. Steven, to his point, it drives my wife nuts that my vehicle taxes this year were like $40.
That's not bad.
She's like, you suck, man.
Yeah.
A $40 tax bill.
What she drive?
She's got a 2021-ish Toyota 4Runner. Gotcha. So she's got a relatively newer. Now she bought it secondhand.
$150, I'm sure, for taxes.
Yeah. Her taxes are up in there like the $400 range.
What?
They're high.
Oh, I was going to guess 150. Oh, that's high. That's really high.
They're high. So yeah, she gets mad at me all the time. She's like, you get so not stressed out, it's not the right word, but apprehensive when tax season rolls around because you're going to get your tax bill. And I'm like, yeah, because I remember when my tax bill, it comes at Christmas time because I'm an idiot and I bought my Jeep at Christmas time. So it comes like 2 weeks before Christmas. It used to be like $200 plus when I was under 150,000 miles. So I've got a 2006 Jeep that is, to the best of my knowledge, hovering right around 185,000 miles.
Which seems like a lot to me.
Seems like a lot, but that inline six in a Jeep Wrangler, that sucker will go for like 400,000 miles.
So you think you'll be able to get 400 out of that?
I'd get 400 out of the engine. I don't know if I get 400 out of the body. Yeah. Now, I don't do as good of a job taking care of every little rattle and squeak as I should. I do an okay job of it. And but at the same time, man, like I don't know that I want to have it that long. Well, unless I do Steven's thing where I have another vehicle to drive and it's just a secondary driver.
And that's a good way to look at it. However, I think the older I get, the more I want to just drive the one I have until it just crashes. I mean, till it just absolutely tanks out and I have nothing else. Then I'll, figure out what to do. But, I think when you're young, you want something shiny and new. And again, I still I'd still love to have a 2025 F-150. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I thought 150,000 miles was a lot until I started reading some of these comments. Let's go to the text line first. By the way, JB on the YouTube stream says, my 2002 Expedition has 325,000 on it.
Nice.
It had 177 when I bought it in 2016. Madcraft says he had an 06 Expedition with over 300,000. It blows my mind that still drives.
I'll bet you that the engine was fine, but it was the interior that's falling apart. Because everybody I know that has a mid-2000s Ford, the interior's falling apart.
That old leather.
All the plastic and the leather on the steering wheel is like sticky and falling apart into little, like crumbling into little pieces.
No, it's true. Sport Doc on the text line. Again, 844-326-3663. Sport Doc says he has a 1997 Suburban with 325,000 miles. Nice. And again, Sport Doc, I'm assuming you still drive it. And that's my whole thing. Like, I just thought for some reason, and I guess I'm just stupid, that when you got close to 200, you can forget it. However, I think that's the bad mentality that people have nowadays. It's like, oh, when it gets to 100, they got to have something new, new shiny, new flashy toy. Go buy a new car.
Well,
right?
here's where they get you, Cole. Is everybody knows that taking your vehicle to a mom and pop shop, yes, it is cheaper than taking it to a dealership, but it's still very expensive. Automotive repair sucks. Like you. Most people don't have that to just go and spend, and it's awful, man. The price of vehicle repair is really, really bad.
It's a lot. Let's see. Sorry for the internet lapse on the stream. I hope you Tolos are still there. My internet just went out for a second on my stream computer here. Let's see. John Dog. No, I'm sorry. That's not John Dog. This comes from the 843. 843 on the text line says, I have a 2004 Yukon Denali, 308,000 miles, driving it down Wade Hampton as we speak. John Dog does chime in and says a Ram. He has a Ram. It has 238,000 miles on it. Nice. That's unbelievable, man. And it's still running.
I had a this led to the worst financial decision of my life. I had a 96 Cherokee.
Yeah.
That if memory serves, I was up to about 285,000 miles in it, and the engine was just fine. Yeah, it was leaking a little bit of oil, but almost all Jeep engines from that era leak just a little bit. It was the transmission that was going on it. And I remember taking it to a transmission shop because I said, you know what? I've had this Jeep for a couple of years and I've never flushed the transmission. Let me go do that because I'm sure it needs it. And I get there, they're like, I got some bad news for you. There's a lot of metal fragments in your transmission fluid. And somebody who knows mechanicals can explain this to me. I don't understand how this works, but he said, if we flush your transmission and put brand new transmission fluid in it, it might never go back into gear.
Makes sense.
So no. Well, how does that make sense?
Because it's not used to that, right?
If you're removing all of the metal fragments, which are bad, why does putting fresh, new, clean oil in it hurt the transmission?
I guess it's just because it's what the transmission's used to. I don't know. I mean, yeah, that's a good question. Let's see here. A lot of texts coming in. Keith and TR had a 1995 Honda Civic with 300K on it and wouldn't be surprised if it's still running the roads. Trey in Kentucky says he had a 1981 or still has a 1980. Oh, no. Had, H-A-D, not H-A-S, an 81 Honda Civic. It died. Oh, my God. This is no way. Died at 472,000. Nice. You believe that?
At what point?
Yeah.
At what mileage point? Everybody's different, right? At what mileage point do you go from I gotta fix the problems with this to keep it running to screw it? If it's got a rattle, if it's got a little bit of a smoke to it,
that's what makes it unique, though.
Right? It's custom. Like what's that mileage that says, you know what? I'm not going to baby this thing anymore with repairs.
Couple of texts on your question. One texter said the metal fragments in the fluid are filling the voids as it cycles through. Another texter says all the dirt and grime increases the viscosity of the fluid. If you change it, it can reduce fluid viscosity and pressure on gears. That's above my head. I'm not a car guy.
Now, this was it was already an older vehicle when I bought it. I think I bought it at like 175,000 miles and put another 100,000 on it. And I know until from 175 to 275, I didn't change the transmission fluid. So I don't know when the last time was that it was done.
Tolo Steve texts in. He says, I'm driving a 2001 Toyota Camry with 247,000 miles on it, still going strong. That's impressive too. But that Trey in Kentucky with a 472, that just blows my mind.
Look at Moneybags over here. Dan B says 100 to 150,000, I suppose, before I'm like, nope, Time for something new.
And see, I think that's the way most people think. Though.
Yeah.
I really do.
People think 100,000 is an old vehicle. Like it's well worn at that point.
And that's why car dealerships are in business.
Right. I mean, with the average driver now driving 15,000 miles a year, Cole, that's only like 8 years old.
That's true.
At 8 years old, it's time to trade it in. I get it because you want the new technology and all that stuff. I don't want that tech in my car. I don't want that stuff.
Yeah. Rick and Greer wants to chime in on the phone lines, 844-326-3663. What do you say, Rick and Greer?
Okay, let me give you the answer. The answer is I have a car that's got 95,000 miles.
That's nothing.
Since I bought the car, that's not a lot.
Why?
But my last car had 220, and I bought it at 90.
Say that one more
what
time.
you do is you get an endurance. I'm going to do a commercial now. You get an endurance warranty. They're the best company in the business. It's about $75 to $80 a month. And it pays for all those repairs, except wear items, which is tires, brakes. But the big stuff pays for. Plus, even if the water pump or something goes out, it's $100. Every time you work on it, it's $100.
But Rick, I've had some of those supposedly pretty good aftermarket warranties, and the thing that goes wrong is always that one thing that's not covered. Always.
Everything's covered under that endurance warranty. I'm telling you, everything but I've had water pumps go out, starters, everything go out, and endurance covers it. Just get you a warranty. Don't worry about it. Blow the engine. Get you a new engine. They pay for the engine for $100.
Rick, you're the man. Thank you for the
phone call, Rick.
Tom,
valuable information.
Absolutely valuable. He's trying to get an endorsement deal is what he's trying to do. Tom in Somerville wants to weigh in. Tom in Somerville, we're talking about the oldest cars that you've driven with the most amount of mileage. What's up with you? What do you say to this?
Oh, Ford makes the best vehicle ever made. It ain't even a question. It ain't even a debate. Toyota makes a good truck, but Ford, you'll never go wrong with Ford. It's the only vehicle I'll ever buy next to Toyota. Ford is the best.
I'm a Ford guy.
So you mean Ford is the second best?
Well, no, Ford is better than Toyota in my opinion as far as comfortability goes. But as far as longevity goes, Toyota has proven that they're up there with anybody.
But Toyotas, I've always heard Toyotas do last forever.
Yeah, they do.
They do. Oh, granted, anything will last as long as you take care of it.
It's true.
But to me, Fords are just more comfortable. Fords are just more comfortable to drive. They're more comfortable to ride in. And that's where, I like. I got a Ford. I love it.
Tom, I'm going to throw something real petty at you. I'm going to tell you exactly why I would never own a Ford. When you open the car door and you hear doo-doo-doo, 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 that stupid AF sound is why I'll never buy a Ford.
I'm with Tom. I'm a Ford guy. I love Ford. I think Ford does make the best truck.
Hey, so I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to try everything I got. I'm not going to put any real emotion into basketball because baseball season's close.
Okay.
Now, I got a question. Maybe come closer to baseball season, y'all may have somebody on. But are y'all possibly going to have a guest that talks a lot about the Atlanta Braves? Because I'm a big Braves fan. I'm excited. I'm worried, but I'm excited. And just wanted to ask you guys if maybe once a week y'all are going to have a Braves reporter come on and talk like y'all did with Unfiltered and things like that.
We had a Braves reporter on for the majority of last season,
That's right.
Tom.
That's right. It was
Jake Mastriani from Locked On Braves podcast.
He was great. No, we'll definitely cover the Braves, Tom. I hope the season goes well. I'm not really excited about it. I don't think again, didn't do a lot in the offseason that excited me, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's my concern is you got your best players coming off injury. You ain't signing anybody.
Right.
So, but we're getting close. That's all I really was just curious about.
Thanks, Tom.
Other than that, y'all have a good weekend.
Appreciate you,
Tom.
On the Facebook page, Diesel, Scott said his 2011 Honda Pilot still going with $204,000.
Nice.
Kevin posted a picture of his 1998 Honda CRV. Kevin says, I have a 1998 Honda CRV with 335K on it.
Is it your daily driver?
Yeah, I still drive it. All-wheel drive. Can't beat it. Well, that's a lot of money. 335.
Interesting. So Cole, we glossed over the fact that what happened with my Jeep with the transmission problem was the worst financial decision of my life. I said, no, don't put any new transmission fluid in it. I'll walk away. Mm-hmm. I drove straight down the road to Big O Dodge, and I bought a brand new, had 7 miles on it, Jeep Wrangler, and I have been paying for that thing ever since.
You still have it?
No. I traded out of that to something else, and I got upside down on it, and I traded that to something else, and I got upside down on it, and finally, like 10 years later, or almost 20 years later, I paid that third vehicle afterwards off, so I'm finally out from under that. But I would advise anybody, don't take a worthless vehicle down to a dealership to trade it in for a brand new one, because you're not going to come out well financially.
No, you're not going to get anything. The older I get, the more and more I hate car payments.
I was 26, so I was stupid.
Well, I think I would be okay the rest of my life without a car payment. I really do. It's such a big payment. Kevin on Facebook says $330K on a 2000 Suburban. Matthew, I have a 2005 Tacoma, $352, still going. That's a lot, man. Joby, still driving my 2001 Toyota Tacoma with $257 on it.
Love it.
Teddy, Ford Escape with $226, and now a Ford Probe with $300. The 3 boys driving her. The Probe finally died. Let's see. Jason on Facebook says 2004 Toyota Camry, $300 before the head gasket blew. Now listen to this. Do you believe this one, Diesel? 88 Camry, 500,230 miles.
Well, it's a Toyota.
This is Lester. You're right.
Wow.
Lester says the Serpentine belt alternator starter water pump and thermostat, only things done to the car. I no longer own it, but the person I gave it to is still right.
I love that. And you know what? Now that car, he said it was an 88 Civic,
88 Camry,
88 Camry. Probably now is like come around full circle to like, well, that's kind of a cool looking car again. Like it's kind of retro again, right? There's so much planned obsolescence in modern cars now. It's the technology gets old real fast, and you can't upgrade the internals of the entertainment system.
Sure,
you can plug in your phone for as long as that is the technology and when that changes, you're screwed. Like you can't upgrade to the newest thing without ripping everything out and starting over. There's just I truly believe that these auto manufacturers, they set these cars up to fail at a certain mileage, and somehow, some way, they know that if a part is warranted for 100,000 miles, it's going to fail at 125.
Makes sense.
They know that it's going to do that.
Listen to this. Michael says, we had a teacher in high school in 1996 at Hillcrest High School that had a Pontiac, I believe, that went over 1 million miles. And I remember they gave him a brand new car, and he still drove the old one. Tony says he had a 1998 Grand Am with 463,000. John says I had a 2000 Ford Excursion diesel, 340K. Now you can get a lot more out of a diesel, a lot more miles out of a diesel, vehicle, not you. Mike Main, 91 Accord wagon with 247K. Milton says I'm still driving my 2013 Toyota Camry, just went over 311,000 miles. And then lastly, Greg says Ford Fiesta 1994, 400K. We sold it to someone else for $250. He ended up driving it until it died at 550,000 miles. That's unbelievable. I cannot believe. So I guess I'm going to keep driving my car for another 5 years, 6 years, maybe longer than that, right?
Hey, keep it as your running around town car, and then you can get something newer than that. That's your, if you need to go on a long road trip, if you need to stay comfortable, drive that newer thing. Until then, just rock the old beater.
We had more text during that segment than we did any other sports segment today. So, Tolos, glad we got your brain going there.
All you Tolos who get mad when we go off topic, off of sports, That's why we do it. Because how many messages and how many text messages and how many comments on the YouTube stream
Facebook
came through. It's just, it's slice of life, man. People care about that kind of stuff.
That's great.
On the other side of the break, Cole, we talked to Michael Duarte of NBC Los Angeles. We'll talk to him about the national championship game between Notre Dame and Ohio State, plus many other things. That's on the other side on the Fan Upstate. NFL divisional round is looming right on top of us, Cole. Tomorrow it starts. It's the best time of the year if you are an NFL and just in general a football fan, because we get a national championship. We get two big-time NFL four big-time NFL matchups.
Yeah.
Man, this is football mecca. It doesn't get any better than this. Next week is when we start getting less football, and I am not ready for that.
No, I know. It's going to be sad, and we're efforting Michael Duarte of NBC LA. He covers the Rams. I know he has a busy day as he is getting ready for the divisional round game between the Rams and the Eagles. So hopefully we'll be able to get him on in the segment, Diesel. But we have a lot of audio to get to from the NFL world. And, there's a lot of good games. We've talked about those games. But first, let's start with DeMeco Ryans. The it factor that you and I talked about, maybe that could get past Kansas City. Here's what DeMeco Ryans said when he's talking about passing to open up the run and what their game plan is against KC.
Offensively, we just have to continue to play efficient. And when it comes to the quick passing, right, getting the ball out, getting completions, allowing our playmakers to make plays, that's part of being efficient. And that helped us last week. It'll also be a key this week as well. Not only the quick passing game, but also running the football. You want to play well in the playoffs, you have to run the ball well. So both of those will be key for us. And CJ's just commanding the offense, right? We know it's going to be loud. We know it's going to be rowdy there. So we have to be great with our communication. Everybody has to be very attentive in the huddle, making sure we're getting in and out of the huddle fast and make sure we're operating efficiently all the way across the board. When we do that, we're a really good offense.
I really want to believe in Houston. I kind of would like to see Diesel, the Kansas City offense, just sputter enough for Houston to be able to pull the upset. I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I do believe, and we talked about this the other day, if I have to pick a reason, I do believe in DeMeco Ryans. I think he could be the it factor. And maybe, just maybe, DeMeco Ryans is saying the same thing that Marcus Freeman is saying, at the college level. Hey, we may be inconsistent at times, but guess what? When it comes to the postseason, we're going to be ready to compete.
Well, as he said, getting the ball out quick, CJ Stroud has got to do that. And if they can achieve that in this game, I think they have a really good chance to possibly shock the world and take this one. The Chiefs give up a decent number of passing yards every game. I mean, they're okay against the pass. They're in the top, well, really right there at the middle of the pack in the NFL, giving up 219 yards a game through the air. Where they're great is stopping the run. The Chiefs are really good at stopping the run this year. 8th, giving up 102 yards per game on the ground. You're not going to get it done on the ground. So, yes, CJ Stroud has to get the ball out quickly. They have to start making hay there. And then maybe, you pass to set up the run, and you can start kind of throwing some haymakers with big chunk plays on the ground. But CJ Stroud, getting it out to those playmakers is going to be big.
Andy Reid was asked about his favorite thing this time of year. Here's what the ball coach had to say.
What's your favorite part about this time of year? In the prep and all that?
Yeah, I think, you sort of limited. You're one of the few standing, first of all. And so the preparation, you've got to really take care of business there. The error margin is tiny. And so you got to make sure that you play well, coach well, the whole works, which is great. I mean, we're in this to challenge ourselves. No better time than now.
No better time than now, says Andy Reid. Diesel, going over to the Detroit game, which could be really interesting. Ben Johnson on the team preparing for this moment. Ben Johnson's getting a lot of requests to be a head coach rather, and take interviews. But it seems like Ben is focused on the playoff game at hand.
I don't think anybody in that room, myself included, has forgot that feeling of flying back on that airplane from San Francisco. And so we've been all year long extremely detailed, extremely locked in. And to see it go up another level here this week, it's been really impressive. So our guys know this is exactly what we've been working so hard over the course of the spring, summer, over the course of the season. And so now we're ready to go.
Does that concern you that his main, MO is to avoid the loss, not, taste victory?
I think that to his point, like when you have a loss like they did last year, and it wasn't just that one loss. They had a couple of losses down the stretch last year that kind of showed signs, Diesel, that they were a year away. I remember particularly the Cowboys game at the very end of the season that, they felt like they should have won, where they had the penalty on a guy who wasn't eligible rather. And it was an offensive tackle, I believe. So look, I think the Lions still have that in the back of their mind, but I don't know. I do believe that with Dan Campbell, there's going to be a sense of urgency. Like, I don't think that they're going to get lost in, what happened last year. I think Dan Campbell's the right guy to be able to keep them focused. What a tall task, though, for Washington. Kind of like you talk about teams who weren't quite ready last year. Detroit was that team. I kind of feel the same way with Washington here. Dan Quinn first season, new ownership, new manager, Jaden Daniels first season. They've had an incredible year, Diesel, but are they a little premature, right? Have they arrived on the scene a little too early? I do trust Dan Quinn. Here's what he had to say on his team's ability to execute in crunch time.
Congrats on the wild card victory on the road with a rookie quarterback and a team that seems to just play so well together. Coach, what are some of the moments that have really impressed you about the poise and the preparation of your team in dealing with kind of the ups and downs that you face, not only through the course of a season, but through a tough playoff atmosphere like you had down there in Tampa?
Thing I would say that stands out, and probably a good bit of it, Rick, comes from the quarterback spot of poise in those spots. And that comes from, one, the work that you put in, and you can tell that he puts in the extra work. And we've had to be in some fights. So as a team that's still growing here, Red, I would say we haven't had great, we haven't won all those tight matches, but man, you got to be in those fights. We're, as you're getting into 13 wins, you think, man, there's some blowouts. Just the opposite, man. We've been in 8 or 9, 10, hell, I don't know, even more close fights. And as a coach, I couldn't be more pumped for that, because when it does get into those moments, we don't tighten up, man. We've been in that spot. If you were down on the sideline, you'd feel this connection and this commitment from one another. And that, to me, Red, is the difference. Like, these guys have a lot of trust in one another. And if you have that, man, you're sitting good, because then you'll really, really fight for one another. And that's what I love about our team, that they're really down for it for one another.
I'd be fascinating to hear from Patrick Mahomes. And, maybe this is one of those off-season conversations that somehow Jaden Daniels gets a hold of Patrick Mahomes' phone number and they chat this thing out. To hear what Patrick Mahomes learned in his lone Super Bowl loss, because he won his first one in 2020.
Yeah.
He lost in 21, won in 23 and 24. I'd love to hear what Patrick Mahomes learned in those games that changed his game, changed his focus, changed his preparation, his approach, whatever it may be, because that would be invaluable. I truly believe that you have to taste a little bit of failure first before you can go be great. Patrick Mahomes, like I said, won his first one. And then after losing one, he's gone on to win 2 in a row. And there's got to be something about losing that one that really affected him in a positive way, even though it hurts to lose.
No, I think what Dan Quinn said is valuable to that. In order to be able to win these kind of games, you got to be in the fire, right? You've got to be able to be tested and have the wherewithal to be able to go win these games, because divisional games, man, things get tight. These are huge games where they know each other. Every play matters. Every single ounce of execution that you do have or that you don't get out of your players, it matters in games like this. And look, for the Washington Commanders to hit the ground running like they have in year one, I think it says a lot about who's leading the team in Dan Quinn. Peyton Manning also bragged about that on why Jaden Daniels and the Commanders offense hit the ground running.
He's been awesome. He and Kingsbury, once again, kind of an early connection. Sometimes it can take a minute for a quarterback and a coordinator to get on the same page. I think Washington was very adamant about drafting Jaden Daniels. Adam Peters used to be in Denver. I could just tell early on that is who they wanted. That's who they coveted. They got him, and you can just tell Jaden and Cliff kind of hit the ground running. I think the system just fit Jaden. You could tell he picked it up fast. He was playing fast. You know, as a quarterback, Kevin, playing fast, not having to think about, okay, where is my second? I remember my rookie year, like I was just praying that the first read was going to be open because I wasn't sure where the second and third reads were. And that's a bad feeling as a quarterback. You can tell Jaden I mean, he's got it. He knows it. And that's a credit to Kingsbury for creating a system that works for the quarterback. It's a credit to Jaden for studying and picking it up. And he is fun to watch. He's just as kind of calm and collected in the fourth quarter as he is in pregame warmups. And that's a great quality for a quarterback, especially a rookie.
The one thing that's interesting about Jaden to me, and every quarterback journey is different, but he's a guy, and I talked to his quarterback coach, Savita Pritchard, in preseason about this. He's a guy who played a ton of football and a ton of different offenses in 2 schools. And, the portals help some of these guys find, I guess, what you call their football destiny. But some of these guys, because they're playing so many reps, and COVID obviously gave them an extra year, but they're coming in so much more pro ready. And I'm curious what you think the blueprint is and how it's changed for a young quarterback, especially if they played 4 or 5 years. You see Cam Ward coming in, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. Like these guys are playing a lot of football, Peyton.
No, it helps. I mean, Bo Nix is a perfect example. I mean, it's not possible to play any more games than Bo Nix played in college, right? And he's in different systems at Auburn. He's in different systems at Oregon. And that just helps him, Kevin, when he comes in and picks up Sean Payton's offense. Think about all the reps that he had throwing a cover 2 seam at Auburn or a cover 2 seam at Oregon. And now he gets to the Broncos and he's just going to repeat those reps some more. I'm a big fan of experience being your best teacher, Kevin. It's just something to playing and getting the reps. And you see it working for Daniels, like you mentioned, Cam Ward. I mean, you just learn something every time you rep a play in practice, much less a game. I'm all for it.
I wonder, Cole, how much it's worth having a coach like Cliff Kingsbury, who spent a lot of time in the college ranks, can speak to young players in a way that maybe is a little more difficult than coaches who have been around in the NFL for 30 years, coaches who never coached college ball. I think there's probably a little something to it there as well. Sure. You can just connect faster. You know how to talk to 22, 23-year-old kids more.
Diesel, Rich Eisen is our new show right here on the Fan Upstate from noon to 3. There was an interview today that I want to get into in the very next segment. Rich had Tom Pelissero on, and yesterday you and I talked about Bill Belichick. Tom Pelissero today on the Rich Eisen show said there's one coach in Bill Belichick that would pick up the phone if Jerry called. He hasn't signed his contract. Do we believe what Tom said? I want to hear from you, Tolos, as well next. It's Diesel, Tom Pelissero today on the Rich Eisen Show, which, by the way, if you haven't listened yet, if you haven't checked it out,
good stuff.
It's good. I like Rich. I like Rich a lot. Look, Jim Rome's one of the best ever. I get that. But Rich is his new flavor, man. I like it a lot. I hope you Tolos out there will give it a shot. 12-3. I learned a lot from it. I really do. I listen so I can learn. And Tom Pelissero today said, Diesel, that if Bill Belichick received a phone call from Jerry Jones, even though Bill Belichick's the new coach at North Carolina, Tom Pelissero claims that Bill Belichick would pick up the phone and entertain the phone call to be the head football coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Are you buying it or selling it?
Would he pick up the phone? Yes, because I think Bill is a vindictive enough person that after doing the whole, well, you don't want me, then I don't want you. Screw you, I'm going to college. Sure. I'm going to go win over there. As soon as somebody picks up the phone, he'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to come back and show you that I'm still a high-level NFL coach.
Okay, I want to hear this audio. This kind of refutes what Tom Pelissero said, right?
Yeah, this is an interview with the North Carolina general manager. All colleges, the big ones, they all have GMs now. His name is Michael Lombardi. He throws a wet blanket on this whole Bill Belichick rumors going back to the NFL thing. Here is what Michael had to say.
I think everybody is trying to make a story out of something that there's no story, and I get that, he is the greatest coach of all time, and it makes sense that he would work in the NFL, but he has really decided that that's not what he wants to do. As much as people keep trying to place him, the marriage is between North Carolina and Bill Belichick, and that's what he's committed to doing. He's on the road today.
Well, the problem is, Cole, he hasn't signed the prenup yet.
No contract and no signature.
Michael continues.
And people say, well, unless we hear from Coach Belichick, Lombardi's can't be the mouthpiece. Well, look, I work with him. I'm with him every single day. Bill doesn't talk to the media very much, so I will express to everybody how committed he is here as he works on other things. So to me, it's a story that won't go away because the media is convinced itself to keep it going when a lot of stories are just not real. It's fake news, frankly.
Fake news.
Fake news. Bill is not taking a job in the NFL. Fake news.
He ought to pay Michael Lombardi a lot of money for defending Bill and making Bill Belichick look as perfect as he did in that audio.
So do you believe, Cole, that college football GMs now will become a bigger mouthpiece for these programs? Could you imagine insulating a lot of the head coaches that don't want to talk to the media?
Sure.
A lot of the head coaches that don't want to answer the certain questions. You say, you know what, Michael, you go out there and do it. I'm Bill Belichick. I'm here to coach. I'm not here to talk to the media. You go handle it.
I think it will continue to happen. I don't know if it'll happen with every coach, but to your point about GMs becoming more and more involved in college football, GMs have the opportunity to kind of sweep things where they want to be swept. Really, I mean, coaches are still going to be talking to the media. There's no doubt, but I do believe that there'll be a lot of GMs like Michael Lombardi, who's an NFL guy, ex-NFL guy, by the way. I think his job is to make Bill look good regardless. Look, is it true? Maybe. Is it false? Maybe. It may be true, it may be false, but Michael Lombardi's job is to make Bill look good regardless. And, look, Bill Belichick, college, it's going to be an adjustment. Would it surprise me if he picked up the phone? Absolutely not.
Texter says, well, my girlfriend is going to marry me. She is committed. She won't tell you that, but she is. I can speak for her.
That's true. That's true.
Buckeye
Right?
Mike says Rich Eisen is scum.
I know
Capital
what
UM. Not sure as a Buckeye fan I can listen to him daily.
Well,
LOL.
There's only one reason that Buckeye Mike is saying that.
Never graduate, Buckeye Mike.
That's right. He knows that Rich Eisen bleeds those awful colors that he hates so much. But you know what? You go out there. I heard it was funny. Rich Eisen today. Somebody called in and asked. It was a female caller. She was funny as can be, Diesel. She asked Rich. She said, if Ohio State wins the national championship, that makes Michigan national champions because Michigan beat Ohio State. So Buckeye Mike, is that true? Are you okay with that with that motion.
People love applying the transitive property when it works out for them, but they'll refute it till the day is done if it doesn't work out for them.
Oh boy, I don't know, man. I don't like that property at all, because Michigan, they did beat Ohio State, but come on.
Texter asks, is cockroach racing struggling so much that Rick and Greer has to start selling extended auto warranties?
Oh boy. Oh boy. I see what you did there.
When we come back, Cole, and extended audio blitz. A lot of things happening out there, and they are going to hear about it next on the Fan Upstates.